Right? We all know what's going to happen when I stand with a row of shuttles. That's something normally called multifeeding, and that's what most people actually practice. But we want to talk about why you're not getting better when you practice. Why your training sometimes maybe suck, and why you're stuck in the same level. And that might be because the exercises you choose is on a too comfortable level. For example, multifeeding will be where you basically have multiple shuttles and then giving the shuttles to the same corner where you can, for example, practice the lift all of the time. What is important is that when we're doing a training and we want us to become a better badminton player, we must practice the shot as the professionals do the shot when playing matches, or as we self do when we play matches. So if I normally stand up here and there will be 12 shuttles feeded towards my corner, and that's how I play matches, then it's fine, but there is no place in the world that happens. So we have to use other corners and we have to do different variations as well, but we still need to focus on the lift over here. And that's what we are calling some kind of improving the exercises, making the exercise more relevant and making it a bit more difficult. When we're playing a match and if for example someone hit a shuttle to me and my lift will go out of the court, I'll get instant feedback. What I mean by instant feedback, I will lose the point and my opponent will get a point. If I just do multi-feeding, I can stand and it will have no consequences for either the exercise or anything, but only my own feeling of how am I going to do these lifts. That's the only thing that's happening. And we need that instant feedback, so that's kind of the feedback element we need to have in our exercises. We'll just show you different exercises to this forehand corner on how you, for example, can make exercises to this area more relevant and so you can become a better badminton player. And then you just have to kind of transfer what we're going to show you from this corner to all of the other corners and elements. Because when we're doing the forehand lift, there is something that we totally forget, and that's how we're going to get to that forehand corner. It just makes no sense if we know I'll just say it again. It will make no sense if we know how to do the shots from this corner, but we are not aware of how are we going to get there. So if I can't do any footwork towards the corner here, it makes no sense for me to do any shots from here because I'll never get to it. So we need to practice these bigger elements and at the same time if we want to get a feeling of getting a better badminton player. Because we all can teach a kid on 5 years just to stand like this and like feeling you are having someone thumping in your left hand and do lifts, that's alright. But when we're going to add elements about rotating around the hip, jumping back and all of this kind of split step towards the corner, maybe you step over or something like that, that will be more difficult, but we need to practice it, they need to be aware of it. And there are so many different ways coming to that corner, and it's up to each player to find their own way. Bigger players have a tendency to do like this, or someone have a tendency to just do it behind, or maybe a shift, and it really doesn't matter depending on what you're good at and what you practice the most. But you need to give each one of these footworks a try if it's up to that. Right. We're going to show you these exercises now and then you can transfer them to all of the corners.
So in the first exercise, the player is standing still and the feeder is just throwing shuttles towards the corner. But this is a good way if you're new or is new with the technique, so you need to get a feeling of how do you actually do this forehand lift. Otherwise, if you are on a very advanced level and this is your type of exercises, this might be why you're not getting better, because you're doing these simple exercises. This is categorized as a low-level exercise because you can make all the errors you want. There will be no one to judge you and there will be no feedback. You will not lose any point. So be careful of only doing this type of exercises. You need to put it in a context. In this exercise, it's basically the same, but we are now trying to show that we are not only doing the lift, we can also do a net shot. So we're not completely fixated when standing there. We can do other shots as well. And that's very important if you can do different shots from each corner. So you must be sure to still be on a very low level type of exercise, but be able to do different shots. And this is just with a straight net shot. You can also do cross net shot or a cross lift or whatever. Just make sure you are doing another variation, so you're not only doing this lift, because that's simply too easy. So now the things is going to be a bit complicated. Of course, this exercise is much harder. It's a much higher level. The feeder is standing still just at the baseline, performing straight drop shots, and the player is moving forward and backward from the center towards the forehand corner. So he just added the footwork and still only performing lifts. But now there is this instant feedback, because there is no room for errors, because then the exercise will simply stop. So this type of exercises is categorized with an ongoing shuttles, which is indicating that the exercise is on a higher level. This exercise is basically the same, but now we're adding this other option. So the feeder is moving from side to side and the player is performing two variations. Perform two straight lifts and then two cross-cut lifts. Just from one side to the other. So he's basically doing the same as the exercise before, but now we added a variation. So we make sure that we're able to do different variations. The footwork is also added here. So the player will have to move from the center towards the front forehand corner each time and do these two variations from the corner. So this is what characterizes harder exercises. The feeder and the player is both moving along. The player is still working on the forehand lift and is doing it from the middle game shot and from the drop shot from the feeder. The feeder moves forward and backwards and also do different variations. It's quite hard exercise to pull off also for the feeder, because there's many places this exercise can go wrong. It makes it much more relevant and you'll get the feedback from when you're playing. This is characterized as a high level exercise, and that's because it's very close to a match situation. Les and I is basically just playing each other around on the court, but I as a feeder make sure to hit towards Les's front forehand corner plenty of times so Les can practice the forehand lift and other forehand variations multiple times. And we need to make sure that we are practicing in a game relevant situation and not just playing with multi-shuttles, which is a low level exercise, but it must be much closer to what we're going to use when playing a match. So make sure that you are playing exercises with ongoing shuttles, where there's this instant feedback, where mistakes and errors is critical and is important, and not just do multi-feeding where you can make all the mistakes and all the errors you want and it's basically not important. But if you want to adapt and learn new kind of technique, multi-feeding is very good to get the feeling of, can I use it and make the body work right with this kind of technique. But otherwise, when you begin to get a feeling of, okay, this is good, then go on and do more advanced exercises with ongoing shuttles. And it requires a lot of focus also from the feeder and also from the player to make high-level exercise work. And I'm sure if you try to adapt this type of high-level exercises into your practice, you will improve as a badminton player. If you want, you can go to my website on shuttlelife.com, where I have created many different types of training routines which takes care of this type of progression in exercises. There is a link in the description, and I'll also just show it right here so you can find it whenever you want from the middle game. So now the player has to do different types of, I have a cat here.